Welcome to Beyond the Circus. This is Dale Hummel with co-star Ryan Rash.
Hello, hello, hello.
Ryan, I'd rather be talking about sleepy, creepy Joe campaigning from his basement than what we're going to talk about today.
Well, the basement campaign worked, and he's now the president, so we have to talk about other things.
And what are the consequences of such?
The world's on fire, the U.S. looks like assholes, and he's incompetent. How about that?
I see it so clearly, and I am very, very confused how the world does not agree. Everybody does not agree with that.
So my biggest concern on all of this is, and we'll go into great detail on this and whatever, but like, he's on vacation. The world is literally on fire. Taliban has taken over all of Afghanistan. All this is going on. It takes them 2 days to get him prepared to come back to the White House to give maybe a 20-minute address. But my problem is, he is president of the United States, leader of the free world. He has access to anyone, the greatest minds, most intelligent people, best writers, all this stuff. And that pathetic excuse for address to the nation, which is actually an address to the world, because all of the eyes of the world were watching it. That's who the people that he has chosen to guide him and direct him. That's the best they can fucking come up with.
It's pretty shocking.
It's Trump's fault. The Afghanistani people are pussies, and the buck stops with him. That's all they got.
He went on for a while about whose fault it was prior to saying the buck stops here. He went on to, it's the Afghan president, it's the Afghan people, it's Trump, it's all these people. But then he says, no, but the buck stops with me. I'm taking responsibility. Well, I'll tell you what.
After he blamed the world other than him.
Yes, absolutely. It just amazes me. So this is similar to every crisis that this administration has ignored or dealt with. Think of the southern border. There's not one decision that I can think of that Biden has made that has been correct. And it cannot be coincidence. It cannot be that level of incompetence. There's something we're missing.
I just go back to before he won the nomination to become the Democratic nominee. There were lots of generals and lots of people that had vast military and foreign policy experience that while this was going on, and several of them went on the record about this and said that he has literally been on the wrong side of every foreign policy decision for the last 4 decades. And they're not wrong.
The facts are correct there. You are absolutely correct. How is it possible that we elect a person like this into office? And should we expect anything different? I don't think so.
No, because all the dead people elected him.
The dead people,
It doesn't matter to them. They're dead. But anyway.
I can go a lot of different directions. As Trump talked about, we need to reduce troops and eventually get out of Afghanistan. You can take that however you want. But it's clear we were down to 2,500 troops providing air support and some intel and basically propping up the Afghan military to where they could keep the Taliban
and everything
in check.
Was fine. Am I wrong?
We didn't lose a life in 18 months.
18 months.
And everything was, 2,500 troops there. Think about, we have nearly 30,000 troops in South Korea. We have troops all over Europe. 2,500 troops is nothing relative to where we have them everywhere else to keep things in check. Why do we have so many troops in South Korea?
Because Kim Jong-un is crazy?
Yeah. And if we didn't have him there, what would he do?
He would probably just obliterate South Korea if they didn't surrender.
Yeah, it would be simple. He would come across the border about like what happened in Kabul. He would just walk in and take it over. There would be no they can't defend themselves. They're not in a position where they can do that. And without our air support for not only the Afghan troops but also our allies there in Afghanistan, it just wasn't going to work. And the simple fact is, you can argue whether we should get out of there or not. I am a firm believer that leaving 2,500 troops there, if it was relatively safe, and again, I know that at some point there's likely to be loss of life, but we were not out on the front lines. We're providing air support and intelligence and guidance, and we were not losing lives at this point. If we could keep them there and stabilize that so it's not a terrorist hub, and they can gather and they can commit more acts upon the United States from a terrorist standpoint, I think this is a very good thing. I'm not about policing the world, but I'm about having a military presence where we need to protect the United States, period.
Well, and Bush started this, and I will state, and y'all can get angry, whatever. I think this is the stupidest war we've ever fought. I'm just gonna say that, like, there's no doubt. But this started with Bush. Obama continued it. Trump wanted to reduce the forces, all this other stuff. Now, there's some woman on my Facebook that's arguing with me, and she's wrong. And I don't care if you're listening to this, ma'am, you're wrong. Trump did not release the 5,000 Taliban prisoners. That was the president of Afghanistan that did that. Trump thought it was a good idea to keep negotiations going, but we didn't have the 5,000 prisoners to release, lady. So, just in case you're listening. But
speaking of prisoners, do you realize we have some from Gitmo that are now in Afghanistan fighting us again, coming back at us again because we did not hold a military trial and execute them? Amazing.
But Trump had there are people on mainstream media today that are saying that Trump had a plan and it was executing quite well. He didn't get reelected, and there is no one defending Biden on this. He took a course completely different from what all of his military experts, generals told him to. He withdrew everything, and by God, this is how this was going to be. And this was all his plan. And then I don't think there's been a bigger mess since Vietnam. I'm just being honest.
I don't think so either. Think about that footage of that U.S. aircraft pulling out with all the Afghan people.
C-17 with the people literally hanging on the side of the plane and falling to their death. I mean, and then after Biden gets done giving his pathetic little bullshit that he spat out for 30 minutes or whatever, the actual scary part for me was the people that talked after him that I think literally had less insight on what is actually going to happen and what is going on, and could literally not answer any questions about the situation over there right now at all. All they could say is the airport is back open. That's all they would say. That's it.
And they talked about how the situation is evolving. The Department of State and the follow-up talks about evolving quickly, so it's hard to know what's going to happen. Talks about U.S. citizens are to shelter in place rather than try to get to the airport. Well, Biden's saying we're going to get all these people out of there because we control the airport. Good luck. The rest of the city, the rest of Kabul is under Taliban control. How do they think they're going to get to the airport? This is a train wreck. This
and they're going door to door looking for people.
And then he comes up and states that, well, the Taliban are going to follow international law and they're going to give women rights and they aren't going to abuse anybody. Are you kidding me?
Really?
Yeah, he made the statement the Taliban will follow international law.
He can't be that stupid. He can't be that stupid.
I don't think so. I think they're just lying to the masses, and the masses just swallow it up. They don't think for themselves. I'm as disappointed in the American public as I am Joe Biden.
No, I'm not going to disagree with that. I'm not saying all of the American public, but
too many of them. The ignorance that I am witnessing is unprecedented. I did not realize the ignorance that was out there. They just don't think for themselves.
And there's two things, and again, we're early. I don't know how long this is going to go or whatever, but this is an additional episode, and we'll have the regular Beyond the Ring released on Friday. But like, there's two things that I want to put out here, because while this is horrific and it's terrible, actually three things. We've spent 20 years here investing in this, $1 trillion. I don't know how many lives lost of our military, all this other stuff. We were holding the front, etc., all this, whatever. Now, not only did all of that money and all of those people, even if they didn't die, Dale, that have spent time over in Afghanistan, away from their families here in the U.S., to help this, how would you feel if you were one of those people?
I agree.
I would, be ready to spit nails. Much less if I had lost a loved one over there.
It's sad. To me, I can go on both sides of the issue and say, well, we've been there for 20 years, and that's prevented terror attacks against the United States. And I do believe that to some degree that has happened, and it's helped, I guess, destroy jihad and keep things in check. But at the same time, the way we're exiting this, the whole world is watching. And guess what Russia and China are doing? China sends a press statement to Taiwan stating, hey, the U.S. is going to bail out. Don't worry, or don't go to their side. We're going to stick with you forever. They're talking, and their propaganda's out there. The U.S. is on decline, and guess what? Biden's helping them out. He's strengthening their case, no question.
My first point was like, just my heart goes out to all those people, military families that have had people serve in Afghanistan, whether they're with you or not, that they had to spend time away from their families to do this, and now this is what we're left with. Secondly, the Taliban and Al Qaeda aren't the real winners today. China and Russia are the real winners.
It fosters their case as strong as anything.
And they're seeing what's happening. And then, of course, they put out statements that they hope that the Taliban will, put together a unified government that reflects everybody. And they don't believe that. But they are already recognizing the Taliban as the government in Afghanistan.
And so I'm sure Iran will come in and do the same. And it's a train wreck. And I think Chinese government is going to prostitute Afghanistan for those mineral resources, for everything they can possibly get out of them. And I think they'll get it done. They're going to align themselves with the Taliban with the common denominator as anti-U.S.
And those two countries are the real winners in this, and nobody's really thinking that. But I promise you that is the truth. The two people that are celebrating tonight are in China and Russia. I promise.
No question.
The Taliban has never denounced Al Qaeda, ever. Will not do it. But they also say they're not working with them. But I've spent 3 hours this afternoon, and every person that has any type of intel say that Al Qaeda's all over Afghanistan, and that it's just a matter of, they thought that this would take 6 months for the Taliban to take over Kabul, and it took 6 days.
Exactly. The fact that Biden came out and kept talking about how the Afghan military can handle this on their own. How many times has he been wrong on all these things? And when we talk about
clearly
the Taliban,
they can't because they left.
No question. So guess what this also does? You're talking about China and Russia. I want to throw one more thing in there for the jihad cause. When they can get up there and basically say, we beat the U.S., we pushed them out of our country, all of a sudden, Afghanistan is the largest magnet for the terrorists. This allows them to recruit worldwide.
No,
stronger.
That is the capital, the country of terrorism right now.
Yeah.
This goes beyond where you go.
Beyond the recruiting after 9/11, I believe. This is bigger. This is historic.
You waylaid into my third point. You're stealing my thunder here. But anyway, that's fine. And the thing that concerns me the most is this all is happening right now, less than a month before the 20th anniversary of 9/11. And I can remember seeing something 3 years ago on the anniversary of 9/11 on Fox News, them talking about how every anniversary there's always more chatter, there's always all this, but that they always like to hit the big ones. I have never been more afraid that something might happen to us again on 9/11 than ever before. Ever before.
I think it would be huge if they can pull it off. Those things are so symbolic, and they rally around those type of things like no one can imagine. And they're going to rally around what just happened the last 3 or 4 days in Afghanistan.
This just gives oxygen to the situation.
It is pretty amazing. During his speech, did you notice that Biden appeared to be angry? Appeared to be the fact
I thought he was angry, pissed off, smug. Like, why did he have to be there? Why did he have to explain anything? And again, he's been on vacation while the world got set on fire. He flew back in to give this speech, and within 1 hour after delivering this address, guess what happened? back on his helicopter and going back to vacation.
Did he at any point, he talked about getting, there's 60,000 people that help the U.S., whether it's translation or other intel, Afghan citizens that help the U.S., and they're very proud that they're very proud they got like 4,000 of them out, or 2,000, I don't remember the number. Very few, and all the U.S. citizens, not to mention our allies' citizens that are in Kabul and other parts of Afghanistan. They never mentioned how they're going to get them out.
No, he never said. He just said they were going to do it. Now, the military people after...
How?
No, they never said how. And the military people after never said how. But what I thought was very telling on that is that question got posed about all the people that helped us, all the people that had a hand in this, all this. They're like, our goal right now is to get our American citizens, our whatever, our people safe passage and out. And like, that question was posed at least 4 times to 2 different people after Biden spoke, and neither one of those guys said jack shit about what they're going to do for those people that have been helping us for 20 years.
And do you know how easy this would have been to get them out months ago? It would have been simple when we still had control. They keep talking about these SIVs. I'm assuming it's some type of visa paperwork. That is basically why they didn't come in earlier, because we couldn't get them a visa into the United States because of the red tape. Look at the damn southern border. How much documentation and visas are being used down there?
None.
Yet these people that risk their lives to help the United States, we can't bring them in without documentation. Are you kidding me?
Makes perfect sense, doesn't it? I mean,
oh, it pisses me off. Completely pisses me off.
I mean, just
unbelievable
makes
hypocrisy.
Perfect sense.
How can they prevent those people that they know are going to be hunted down by the Taliban and executed
and killed?
Yeah,
I mean, they're going to be slaughtered,
and they don't want to bring them in. They don't want to bring them in earlier because we didn't have the right paperwork. Yet we're letting all the migrants cross the border in the south. If you would have came from Afghanistan into Central America up through Mexico, it's fine then. But don't
just
you
walk
try to
across that bad boy. It'd be all right.
No big deal. No big deal. So they have, I don't know how many, I'm going to say 60, 70, 80,000 people that they need to evacuate from Kabul. The Taliban is not going to allow them to pack their bags, catch a taxi to the airport and leave. I'm pretty damn sure that's not happening. Maybe that's why they did use the word shelter in place. That seems odd. If we control the airport and everything's fine, maybe they ought to get their ass to the airport. Obviously it's not fine.
I'm going to say that from what I gathered on the news, and they tried to make this act like this was how it commonly always has been, is that the only way to get to the airport is through a helicopter. Now, they acted like that was standard protocol, and maybe it is.
That I'm confused with. I don't know how that's even possible.
But how are you going to helicopter 60,000 people to the airport?
I mean,
when
Taliban,
they have all our helicopters now, by the way.
Why would they not surround? I mean, that makes sense. It's the only way they can get there. I can't imagine you can't get there by land, but wouldn't you assume the Taliban is going to surround the airport and not let anybody through? It's simple.
How about the fact that we lost all our tomahawks and shit?
Yeah, just incredible, absolutely incredible. And you talked about how angry Joe blames everyone but himself, and then the buck stops here.
The buck stops with me.
I am so infuriated. And he was arrogant. He was, how could anybody question what I'm doing? He's not going to pass this on to another president. He's taking care of it now. That's fine. If we wanted to pull back to minimum troops,
shit.
No. Why couldn't we at least listen to the generals and pull out in a manner that didn't cause this? I hope that image, and I'm sure it's going to come out, Ryan, the image of the plane taking off with people still hanging on to it. I hope that image burns into every one of those sons of bitches that voted for Biden. And they realize he is the reason. His ignorance, incompetence is the reason that we're in this situation. We could have pulled out a month ago, 2 months ago. We could have done this. We've done it backwards. We pull all our military out and then seem to think that we can pull out our citizens and those that have helped us, right. The Afghan citizens.
You're supposed to pull out all your people before you
a kindergartner could understand this.
Leave.
Their young children know the difference between how to do things right and wrong. And somehow, with all the advisors he has telling him to do it differently, he chooses to do it this way. And then is arrogant about this is the way to do it. This is how it should be done. I think he doubled and tripled down that he was doing things the right way. And that's total bullshit.
And he was on the verge of being hostile. I mean,
he was right there. How dare you question anything I do?
He was on that verge. And this started, Marsha Blackburn, the senator from Tennessee, I was listening to her earlier. She said as early as last Wednesday, they were getting reports that this was likely to happen by Saturday, which I think that's when they actually took over Kabul. I don't remember, but
they may have been in the governor's mansion by then,
right? And in the royal palace or whatever. But and yet he still went on vacation. His Circle Back press secretary, if you call her office or email her, you get an automated response that she's on vacation to call somebody else. All this is happening, and I get it. He's at Camp David or wherever, and he can monitor the situation. It just doesn't look good.
Perception is not
no other reason in terms of aesthetics. Go back to the White House and act like the president of the United States.
Exactly. What about a statement that he didn't evacuate the Afghans earlier because they really didn't want to leave? They didn't want to leave, yet they're hanging onto an Air Force
on
jet.
The outside of an airplane. Literally, there's hundreds of them running in front of moving airplanes. But they
don't want to leave. No, they didn't want to leave. What about the big lie that he puts out there, or the big thing? Well, Trump put this policy in effect that we're supposed to be out of there by May of this year. And I don't know the details of it, but I know we were to scale way down. And I have no problem with scaling down as far as we can get away with and still maintain safety of our troops and maintain an air presence, an intelligence presence, all those things, which I assume we were doing. But he throws it on Trump's lap that he said we're supposed to be out of there, and he wanted to adhere to that policy. How many policies has Biden overturned that Trump had in place, particularly on the southern border, that were actually working?
2 weeks literally undoing everything that Trump did.
But he doesn't want to undo this because Trump gave him their word. Nope, don't want to do that. And I don't even know the details of it. Just amazes me. I did hear, and I'm getting off track here, I did hear a judge ruled against reversing the Trump policy, and I don't even know what judge it was. I need to look it up. Basically saying that Biden had no justification for reversing that now the migrants need to stay in Mexico before they determine whether they get political asylum or not. And I'm sure it's not going to hold, but it's a start. And I'm going to look that up, and hopefully we'll know more on that before even Beyond the Ring recording.
I guess you've heard of the saying, the camel that broke the straw that broke the camel's back, excuse me. And so, there's been a little talk on, not Fox, but on the other ones about, there is a crisis at the border and all this other stuff. They haven't just, most of the mainstream media coverage of Biden has been what flavor ice cream do you like, sir? And stuff like that. But there have been a few select moments where I'm not saying they just ripped him to shreds like they did Trump on a day-to-day basis, but they were negative. They said that things weren't exactly right. These people have turned on him like a pack of wolves.
See, I've not watched any of that. I just can't hardly make myself. But if they're jumping on him, I need to witness that. I would love to see that.
I have never seen people just complete. It is just like a rabid group of dogs in the woods chasing an ex-convict. They are just
that makes sense. That's why he was angry today. His mainstream media has turned on him a little bit.
What about all this other shit that he has fucked up along the way? But this is that what it was? This just broke the dam and
I think the footage of those Afghan people clinging to the airplane, I think that is the footage that is gonna haunt him forever. And he's done plenty of other things that should have, but this one finally stuck.
There was people on MSNBC and saying, literally before his speech, saying he better be very glad that he said he was only going to be a one-term president. He said, because the people in the middle will never come back to him after this mess.
I hope that's accurate, Ryan. I just pray that's accurate.
That was MSNBC. Do you know how liberal them people are?
How many questions did he take after his address?
None.
I forgot.
Stormed off.
Oh, that's right.
Stormed off.
Because it would have been a train wreck. The biggest train wreck
ever. Did you hear? I mean, like, as soon as every reporter in the room started shouting at him. And I was like, oh, my God.
No, he wasn't. He would have gotten the most trouble from whoever gets the president of the United States in trouble if he would have taken a question. The most trouble.
My biggest fear for our country is that he's not making the decisions. But when you have access to the most brilliant minds, speechwriters, all that, and that's the best you can come up with in what is the biggest worldwide crisis, since Desert Storm, maybe?
I think it's right there. And the fact that he comes out and says the Afghans won't fight for themselves, that's an easy image to push, but they lost 50,000 troops in this process. And guess what?
They only said they weren't going to fight when he removed all the air strike force.
And they've had all the air support this entire time. This is something
that is when they had problems. They said, we can't do it without your air support.
Yeah, and that's very logical. And they've had it all along. They can't just overnight go and continue to hold their ground when that doesn't exist. They're not capable of doing that.
I shouldn't say this because I'm not that person and I don't know what I would do in that situation. But the president fleeing the country does not look good. I'm just going to say. But
no. And I was going to ask you about this.
Ask me about what?
Would you have fled the country if you were the president?
I don't think I could have. I'm going to be honest. And I probably would have known that it's either that or live.
There is no question. If he was still there, he would be dead. I'm not saying that's an excuse to leave the country, but I'll tell you what.
And that's why I said I can't tell you for sure, but how can you be the president and desert your people like that? And he's never going to regain power again.
No.
You know what I'm saying? And my whole thing is the Taliban's going to hunt him till he's dead anyway.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, that would have been. I agree. He should have stayed. He should have died for.
But do you not agree that they're going to hunt him down till he's dead anyway?
Most likely.
So I don't know. And again, I'm not in that man's position, so I can't say. But I think it would have been very, very, very difficult for me just to.
That's kind of like a captain going down on a sinking ship.
Yeah.
And if everybody else is off, maybe you ought to get off the ship too. But the rest of the people did not have a safe passage out of country like he did.
But I mean, that's the whole thing. If he got everybody out, great. But he just literally deserted his whole country.
He did. And again, I'm not criticizing for it. I'm
not either because again, I'm not in that position. But I don't even think he tried to help. Get the majority of the people out. You see what I'm saying?
I unfortunately,
there's been no reports of his valiant efforts to try to get as many Afghani people to safety before he said, peace the fuck out.
Agreed. So how would you like to be a U.S. citizen that you're supposed to lock down and hide in the basement right now while Taliban's going door to door? What do you think about all those people out there?
I told you yesterday when the Biden administration put out that if you're U.S. citizen or an asset or whatever, and they're to shelter in place, it's like I told you yesterday. I said, there's no way in hell I would do that. I would be doing everything in my power to get to that airport or get out of that godforsaken place, because if they find you, you're dead anyway. You may die in the attempt to get there, but if they find you, you're going to be dead anyway.
And when you watch footage, the Taliban is sitting on the street corners with ammunition and guns and weapons beyond belief. They control the city. You aren't going anywhere if you're a U.S. citizen and or one of those people on their list that has assisted the United States. Ryan, I'm not trying to be negative. I'm not trying to lose hope, but I don't know how we're going to get these people out of there. I have no idea. We can't go in. We cannot go into Kabul and bring them out. We can't do it. The Taliban has taken over. We can't go in there and use air support. We can't put that many Afghan citizens in danger. There is not a good way of getting those people out of there, and there is no excuse for this situation. We could have gotten them all out of there in the past 60 days with no problem whatsoever if we were simply done what the generals advised Biden to do, and let's bring our people home first, and then we can back off the air support and everything else. This is so logical. I can't even put it into words how incompetent this man is for doing what he's done there. And I hope he goes to bed with this every single night, but I have a feeling he's not going to. He thinks, listening to him today, he thinks he's done the right thing. Every decision he's made.
There's no doubt in my mind that they have convinced him he has done the right thing. Whoever his handlers are, because, I mean, he was more angry that he had to get up there and explain that he did the right thing than, I mean, there was no, did you notice that there was no remorse for anyone?
None. Zero.
There was no, my heart goes out to anybody. Nothing.
He did not want to. He did not want to admit that he'd done anything wrong. Nothing.
I mean, and like I put on my Facebook, I said he's just the most inspirational and reassuring and effective communicator ever. Said no one. I mean, like, it was awful. But, and I am not defending him by any means, and no one take what I'm about to say as defending him. At least he went out there and he said something, because that fucking bitch Camel Toe is nowhere to be found.
The chameleon is hiding. I heard she was going to be at his side. I didn't see that. So she was blending into something.
Y'all know me. I have been very angry at Fox News over the time, especially during the election coverage. For 3 hours before this speech went down, I mean, that is all Fox was like hammering, is that Camel Toe has not made a statement. She has not said anything. She's the first woman vice president. All of the atrocities that are going to happen to the Afghani women and girls, that there are already been teenage girls forced into marriage to these old Afghani fat asses already. Like,
it's not going to stop.
In the last 24 hours. And where is the biggest female woman world leader? Nowhere to be found, but she was supposed to stand by her man, Creepy Joe, at this speech. Guess what? She won there.
Our deputy of state comes up after the Biden speech, and again, we already said this, talks about how the Taliban will follow international law and these atrocities will not take place. Well, they are already taking place.
They're already happening.
Yeah, it's not a question whether they're going to or not. They are.
So was that going to start after he made that little talk?
Maybe.
New clock, new day. What? No, it's already happened. You know, I was just floored when he tapped her to be in charge of the border, and then her complete, just total
ignorance of the situation,
ignoring it. It's not a factor. And then when finally the media was on her so bad that she had to go down there, she went to El Paso. Okay, whatever. But like, you are literally the greatest female political leader in the world, and you have no comment on any of this. How?
I don't know. I cannot explain that.
I mean, Pelosi is drunk and delusional, but at least she's putting shit out there.
Agreed.
Because I don't tweet, people. I think I did my 5th tweet for the last night ever. And literally, I read all the shit Pelosi put on Twitter, and I tweeted her back, how drunk were you when you tweeted this?
I don't even have Twitter. I don't even know how to get on Twitter. So I cannot.
I like Twitter. I like to read the stuff that people put out, but I don't respond. That was probably the 5th time I've ever tweeted in my life. And I was so worked up and so mad over the just massive amounts of bullshit that she put out about the Afghanistan situation that literally I wrote back, how drunk were you when you tweeted this?
I did hear something, speaking of Twitter, that they were allowing the Taliban are still allowed to use Twitter. Yeah, but we don't pull them off.
Nope.
Yet Trump is not.
Trump can't do it. But
the hypocrisy in this crap. Yep. I wish Twitter didn't exist. Gone, just gone, and those in charge of it gone.
I mean, it baffles me, and like for those of you that are listening, that think, oh well, it's just Afghanistan, whatever. And I'm not trying to scare you, but I am telling you that the events that have taken place in the last 72 hours are tragic for the safety and security of our homeland. And if you don't believe that and you don't understand that, you need to do some more research. This is going to have long-lasting effects to American homeland security for years.
I agree completely. And we've probably spent enough time on Afghanistan and our president, Sleepy Creepy Joe's decisions. And that takes us to exactly what Ryan's talking about. If you don't believe this is going to impact us in so many ways, and the security and everything that we have had or we think is normal in this country, it's going to change that to a certain degree. Don't think any otherwise. And Ryan is going to go off on this, and we're going to jump into this one right now, Ryan.
Oh, what?
Vaccination passports. How's that going to change the world?
Oh, God.
Go ahead. I know you're in favor of them. You got vaccinated so you could have a method of getting on the airplane when they require that, which this point,
I got vaccinated so I could keep my inheritance because my mother forced me. And I will own it. But I also did think that you would have to have proof of vaccination to be on airplane. Well, and our lovely president has now stated that he thinks that if you're not vaccinated, you should be put on the no-fly list. But that hasn't come to fruition. Again, I don't care if you want to get vaccinated or don't want to get vaccinated. I literally give zero shits. I don't. That is your decision. It is your choice. You have to make those decisions depending on you, your health, the people around you, and all this other stuff. And being serious, I joke about keeping the inheritance thing, but like my mother and stepfather both really, really, really wanted me to get vaccinated. And the other thing is, again, I've been to 26 states since Rona broke out. I have not been sick one single day. I've never missed anything, nothing. I'm sure that I've been exposed to it multiple times. Another reason that I made the choice, because they didn't force me, they didn't strap me in a chair and have someone put a needle in me, but made a choice to do it, is I am around large crowds all the time. And of all ages. And so, you know what? Me getting a shot twice, I'm not saying it's going to save anybody's life, but it also may prevent someone from getting sick. Because I'm telling you, there's no way that I can travel as much as I do, be around as many people as I am, and not be exposed to Rona at least once a week, Dale. I don't think.
No, I think much more than that, to be honest with you. And I also think that you've probably had it, were asymptomatic, and have been vaccinated. So your ability to fight it off is off the charts. I mean that's the only explanation.
But I don't care what you do. And I think that's the common principle or core of America, is we get to make these choices for ourselves. And I don't have to justify my choices to you, and you shouldn't have to justify your choices to me. And I think that's the biggest problem with the vaccine, is all the people that are vaccinated for the majority part want to shove it in people's faces, and all the people that aren't going to get it are doing the same thing. Hell no, we're not fucking doing it. And it doesn't need to be like that.
No, you need to make your own choice.
Make your choice. Live with it. You don't have to tell the rest of the world. And that is why, even though I am vaccinated, I am so pissed off about all this bullshit that now they're going to make to go here, to do this and that, whatever. Then you've got to be vaccinated. I truly think it's unconstitutional.
It's on the verge of communism. It honestly is.
I do believe it's unconstitutional. I know you don't. We've had that. But I really, really think
I do believe it is, but I also believe it's no different than the chickenpox vaccine or what other vaccines you have to get before you enter certain grades of public school.
And I can't argue that you're not right there.
Just for some reason that wasn't there. Here's the example: those vaccines may have been researched longer, but I guarantee you there wasn't as much effort and expense and knowledge put into those as there was the COVID vaccine. And the fact that they were not politicized, it fell under the radar. People complied with it because the political issue wasn't there.
Being so political? That's what I don't understand. Again, chicken pox, whatever you want to talk about. And yes, they've been around forever. They're tried, true, tested. But at one point, they weren't, Dale.
No, I agree.
You can go back in the history books, and there wasn't this problem when they came out.
I'm not telling you to get vaccinated. I'm not telling you not to. I'm telling you to educate yourself and make that decision yourself. But I can assure you the biggest reason for this is the political side. And I'm telling you, if I ever regret getting vaccinated, it's when Joe Biden is on some kick trying to tell me I have to go do it. That's when I want to rebel against it.
That literally, and like I told you, and I think I said last week, I said, every time I hear one of those fucking Democrats talk about how have to be vaccinated, where I'm like, Jesus Christ, I wish I'd never done it. But that's the only time that I really ever think about it. But it just makes me so angry that we have taken a health issue, and I do believe that COVID is real. I do think it causes health issues in people with pre-existing conditions. I do not know many people that have been affected by it health-wise very terribly. I know even less people that have had a loved one or a friend die from it, even though I do know one. But it's real. It's there. Make your own decision, but shut up about it. Yeah. Everybody just quit talking about whether you have to be vaccinated, whether you don't need to be, whatever. Because all of that is doing is increasing the problem. That's all it's doing.
And there's no question that those that have been vaccinated have more resistance to COVID. But that is not absolute. There's still going to be some that for some reason that vaccine didn't take.
I just saw a story today of somebody that was vaccinated that died of it, supposedly. It's not, there is nothing in this world is 100%.
No.
Nothing.
But there's no question, and then we keep talking about, let's follow the science. Well, there is scientific data that vaccine is going to help lessen the effects of COVID if you're exposed to it. You may not feel anything. You may be mildly affected, but it'll be less than what you would have been if you weren't vaccinated. This is simple. I'm not going to argue that with anybody. It just is what it is. So, but at the same time, you can say there are side effects that may be minimal from the vaccine to some people that have died from the vaccine. So there is a risk by getting the vaccine. And
there's a risk in walking across the street and getting in your car.
But guess what?
I'm just telling you.
There's also risk of long-term issues coming from the vaccination, which
Absolutely
I don't know if there will be or won't be. There's also risk.
No one's going to know.
No, there's the immediate risk from COVID, which I think is less than what it's portrayed to be, but it's real, and it will take the life of many that are compromised and certain genetic populations. In addition, there's going to be long-term risk from having COVID, just like there may be long-term risk from the vaccination. And I don't think anybody knows which one's going to present more long-term risk.
You won't know.
That's
for
your
10
choice.
Years.
No, that's a choice you have to make. But if we make it for a political reason, that is about as stupid as what Joe Biden has done in Afghanistan. There's no logic. You don't do that.
I don't think if you're a Republican, you should say, I'm not going to get the vaccine because that's a political statement. I don't think if you're a Democrat, you should go get it because it's a political statement.
I respect the fact that when they're telling you to do it, that you want to fight back. I understand that feeling. I have that feeling.
But I also understand the Democrats thing, everybody get vaccinated because they think that's whatever. Of course, during the campaign, it's Trump's vaccine. They said absolutely not.
Exactly.
Complete flip-flop. But I get why both sides are saying what they're saying. I just think it is God's dumbest reason to not do something or to do something over a political stance.
Because it's not going to change.
Right. It's not going to change anything. But I said several months ago, I don't remember, I was at some show, and if you remember, I said that I went to this gay bar because they had a certain area that if you had been vaccinated, you could go in with no mask and all this other stuff.
I remember
and
that.
I wanted to do this, just see how that all worked or whatever. I never thought, and that was a long time ago. I mean, that was spring. That now we would be at a point where they're going to mandate this. It just blows my mind. But a lot of you that have followed me on social media for years know that my favorite city in the world is New Orleans. It is a city that is rich in history and culture. The people of New Orleans have fought back devastating hurricanes, all this stuff, and the majority of them will never leave because they love the city so much, the spirit, all this other stuff. It's the best people watching, the best drunk town. I mean, everything about it. I love it. New Orleans this week has announced that if you are not fully vaccinated or do not have a negative COVID test within 48 hours, you cannot eat in a restaurant.
No, that's unbelievable. And
this isn't like, wear a mask and you can't eat there.
I think that every blue local municipality, every blue state, I think you're going to see this snowball effect, Ryan. I really, really believe that it's going to continue. You're going to see it wherever they can get it implemented. They're going to do that. So at this point, nothing surprises me. That will devastate New Orleans or any of the other places that think about Las Vegas. That there's one that might push it through as well. There's a lot of places that may push it through.
If you're a tourist town and you do that, you're just might as well write your own death certificate for that town. They can't do that in the blue areas of Texas because our governor signed an executive order saying they can't do it.
But they're going to battle it in court. I hope
they're going to battle it. But I'm just saying they can't put it into effect right now because there's an executive order.
You know how bad Austin would like to do that.
Oh God!
And I'm not saying that Dallas and Houston
I never
wouldn't
go
be
back
far
to
behind.
Austin again, if Rodeo Austin wants to ask me to judge, I'll be more than happy to come judge those animals. If I don't ever go, you do remember I was there the Saturday after the election when they officially announced that Biden was the winner, and I'm telling you, if I never go back, I'm fine.
I get it. Okay, to the data. You love data, don't you? You love it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
EPDs are my friend.
The Delta variant. It appears from the looking at the other countries that we have not peaked yet, and they're talking about we have half as many testing positive now when the numbers were way low. We're back up to half of where we were of positive tests each day that we were in the middle of winter when it was the highest. But what they're not talking about is the simple fact that we're at 10% of the hospitalizations. So it's very simple. If we're at half positive cases and we're only 10% hospitalization, I have no question, no doubt in my mind. And this tells you this because there's 90 million people that have not been vaccinated is what I'm gathering. There's less people that haven't been vaccinated than this past winter. There's half as many cases, and there's only 10% of hospitalizations. That tells me a couple things. Delta is no question more, I guess, contagious at every level, period. It's contagious to the level that unless you're completely locked down in some type of fallout shelter away from everybody else with food, water, everything you need for months, you're going to be exposed to Delta variant. I am positive of this. I can't emphasize that enough. I want this to be a part of your education. That doesn't mean I think you should go get vaccinated. I think I just want you to understand that is going to happen. However, I also believe that it's less of a threat than what the initial COVID strain was to a lot of people. I'm not saying it won't take the life of some, and I'm not trying to diminish that in any manner. I'm just saying for the masses, it appears when we only have 10% the hospitalizations with half the positive tests, that it obviously isn't quite as serious as what the original COVID is. And that falls in line with science. When we have something that is that contagious, normally it's not nearly as detrimental to a person, just like the common cold. Very contagious, but not going to knock you out too bad. So with all those things, we need to try to gather this up. I believe because of how contagious it will spike soon and it will come down about as fast as it went up. Does that mean there's not another mutation out there somewhere that we're going to follow? I don't know, but I'll tell you what, because it's politicized, because of all the things that are going on with our country, there is going to be risk of events being canceled from here forward for at least the next 2 to 3 months, maybe longer. And I don't like it. I'm not in favor of it. All of those things. I was at the Illinois State Fair this year, and I got to witness Governor Pritzker give a little speech outside of Conservation World, Ryan. I took a couple pictures for you.
He didn't have a mask on, by the way.
No, he did not. A couple people behind him had masks
How
on,
did
but
he
did
not get COVID as fat as he is?
I do not know, but he is a worthless pile of, I don't even want to go there. The amazing thing to me, in the state of Illinois, and we're basically Chicago, rules us. I'm not saying there weren't people with masks. If they chose to wear a mask while they're at the state fair, they did. But the majority of the people did not. There were no masks required in the show ring or in any of the buildings. They were recommended to wear a mask in the building, but they did not require you to. This is the state of Illinois. That shocked me a little bit. I'm not sure how that all happened.
I'm just shocked y'all had a state fair.
I am too. I'm beside myself. What happened this past week at Illinois State Fair, and it's going on still, shocks me. It just shocks me because moving forward, there are going to be pockets in the U.S. that are canceling everything, and it's not going to go well.
And then we could talk about how toxic your state fair is, but that's a whole nother podcast.
Oh, we could talk about that. It is maybe a little that way.
On the Circus podcast, that's the Beyond the Ring podcast.
I don't know if that. I don't know. You could put that on the Beyond the Ring.
No, probably not. But anyway, oh God,
you have felt the tense feelings around the Illinois State Fair.
I just yeah, no.
And in Beyond the Ring this week, I am going to talk about the opposite of that. Some of these fairs that are just so good, and I'm excited to talk about that. I'll try to avoid
the atmosphere at your state fair, sir. I'm just telling you right now.
That's that you're kind of picking on Illinois a little bit.
It's okay. I can pick on Illinois. I don't care.
But you know what? It is the absolute truth.
They are not going to hire me to judge there anyway, so it does not matter. But
agreed.
Anyway, moving on next.
Okay, are you done with the vaccines and the Delta?
Yeah,
I could talk about the crime wave across the United States. How was that defunding the police decision working out?
Oh, it's just working out perfect.
Chicago, 52 shootings over the weekend. 52 shootings over the weekend, and one of them was
for Chicago, isn't it?
Oh, just amazes me. And we're not just seeing it in Chicago. It's all the big cities, Ryan. You're right. Police. Do you blame the police for retiring and getting out? It's a mess.
Collect their pension and be appreciated at home by their families and not
risking their life and
exactly. No,
nobody to back them up.
I do want to say to anyone that is a police officer and even more to the ones that are just now going into training at police academy, just bless y'all. And I am not saying that you should not have a great deal of pride in yourself for doing that job, because it is amazing service that you give to your communities, your town, your state, and your country. But I just can't even fathom being in your shoes right now, whether you're an active part of the police force or wanting to go into that field. Just thank you, and God bless you.
I want to second that, and Ryan, I appreciate you bringing that up, because that is the last occupation that you would want to choose to go into unless you truly wanted to try to make things better.
It would have to be a calling at this point.
It would. It's pretty amazing. But what's shocking to me, you don't even hardly hear this because of all the other crap that's going on. There's so many crises and issues throughout the U.S. and the world that a lot of these that would be frontline news and being harbored on every day that are almost non-existent because there's so much other crap going on.
Because the world is literally on fire. I mean,
it is. The southern border. We haven't even talked about that. I talked about a lot on the Beyond the Ring, or we've discussed it many times. I communicate with one of the border agents on a regular basis, and it continues to get worse and worse. The seizure of cocaine coming across the border was astronomical, along with many other drugs, and they're getting a fraction of those people that are bringing drugs across and other illegal activities going on, because all of our border agents are dealing with the migrants that are simply walking across in the masses. I wish I could somehow get through all of our listeners' heads, and maybe they already know it. It is monster level crisis down there, and they simply can't handle it. I heard I think the the Homeland Security Secretary that Biden appointed, made a public statement that things are somewhat under control. These things take time to implement. And then as soon as the microphone went off, something was still on that caught him recording that this is not sustainable. We can't continue this even for a week. This is not this. He totally lied on the microphone to the public.
Those hot
compared
mic
to where
situations that get you every single time.
But I mean, it's so clear. Yet, have you heard the chameleon or Biden talk about the border in the last 30 days?
No.
Yeah. I don't think so either. And it's a complete disaster. Another one that gets me, and I've thought a lot about this. We've got inflation at our doorstep, Ryan. That I do not how to protect ourselves. I do not know how to protect assets from what's about to happen.
I guess it's kind of like this. I don't know how to explain it effectively, but like inflation is setting in and increasing. The economy is decreasing, and no one is working.
That's kind of a recipe for disaster.
That's what I'm saying. You put those three things together, and it's the fall of a country.
And
I'm not trying to be an alarmist, but
the amount of money that Biden is pumping into this economy to push inflation high, that will, no question, set this inflation on fire with everything else that's going on.
I cannot tell, and I cannot stress this. And I know that this is falling on the wrong ears here because everybody listening to this podcast works. I mean, whether it's in the barn or, we're all working people. But over this summer, from June 1 to September 1, I will have slept in my own bed at home at Gay Hill 7 nights. Okay. We're not there yet, as long as I make it, God willing, but 7 nights. I can't tell you how many places I've been, how many whatever. And I mean this in all sincerity. Every hotel, every restaurant, every bar, every gas station, every Walmart, every place I have been, I cannot remember one place that I have visited to either get something to eat, stay at, buy something, whatever, that did not have a help wanted sign. And I mean that with all sincerity, people.
And why can't they hire people?
Because they're not going to go to work because they're getting paid by the government.
And he's going to keep pumping that money out.
But do you not think that the inflation, the economy going down and nobody working, don't you think that that's dangerous?
Oh, it's terrible. There's so many things working against us, primarily. And I'm not saying that some issues wouldn't occur and some issues didn't occur when Trump was in office. But I'll tell you what, we handled it and we at least counteracted it the best we possibly could. Right now, we're fueling the flames. Every decision Biden makes is fueling the flame and pushing us the wrong direction. And I don't know why. I can't explain it.
I haven't been somewhere in the past 2 weeks that gas wasn't over $3.
How about your rental cars and hotel room expenses?
We don't even want to talk about rental car expenses.
$1,800 for 2 days you had at one of them?
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, and I've hit some high ones. Really high ones. It's painful. And it's just starting. It's just begun.
I mean,
Ryan, we're talking about there's a bill that they're trying to push through that tags onto the infrastructure bill.
Mileage.
Yeah, we're talking about $3, $4, $5, $6 trillion of additional spending, basically for climate research and climate prevention and social programs for this. And let's have a program to talk to our people that break the law rather than putting them in prison. Just things that are unbelievable, and it's going to take us to levels of debt that we've never seen before.
I think most of the people that listen to this, they travel, they go to the shows in their own vehicles and stuff. But just like this rental car situation that you're talking about, and I'm not saying that it's a big deal to me, but this affects all business because a lot of people travel for business and have to do these things and stuff. And they're almost impossible to afford. I mean, it's just nuts. And that goes to the inflation and all this. And then I just a bunch of people that don't follow politics, the markets, all that stuff as closely as other people. I don't think that you realize that what's happening right now, you're not going to get the full effects till at least a year later.
No, that's when we're going to start feeling it. We're going to
You know
really,
what I'm saying?
really feel it.
So
I do.
The things that are happening right now, while gas is $3 a year from now, unless there's been a drastic change, and with idiot in the White House, there's not going to be. You'll get the full effect a year later, or that's how, at least that's my opinion on stuff like that.
It's coming without a drastic change. It's coming, and I don't know how that drastic change is even possible. I don't see it on the radar at all. Zero. Well,
No,
Ryan,
no.
we have two things left to discuss,
Okay.
and I don't know which one's easier for me to accept, but I think I have one.
Huh?
The Hunter Biden sex tape. I can't even. It's harder for me to believe that than the other topic. And you know what the other topic is?
What?
And I can believe that this topic much more than try to logic through the Hunter Biden sex tape. Why?
What's the other
aliens?
topic?
Aliens.
Oh, let's talk about aliens, because I'm gonna have to like gather myself. When we talk about Hunter
No,
Biden.
I'm not even going to go into much detail on that, but I do appreciate. I've been out judging a little more this past couple weeks, and the young kids that come up and want to discuss alien possibilities, and we need a little more aliens back on Beyond the Ring. I appreciate them bringing it to my attention, and I will do a little more research. But I think aliens, all of a sudden, with everything else that's going on in the world, they've disappeared. They're gone.
Yeah, since we're doing all this current event stuff, a whole podcast of it, you're gonna have to come up with some alien nonsense for the Beyond the Ring.
I will. I am on it.
The aliens are looking at the world and saying, "Yeah, we ain't going there right now."
Oh, I think they packed their bags and they got out of town.
They're on
gone.
vacation, like Jen Psaki and Biden and Camel Toe. They're like, "Yeah, we're gonna wait."
Well, when we talk about that drastic change, Ryan, that is our only hope.
I'm not saying you're wrong, sir. I'm not saying you're wrong.
I'm going to call out for him to help out here because we need it. God, we need it.
I'm not saying you're wrong at all.
So Ryan brought to my attention, and I'm gonna be very transparent here. I was totally unaware of this. I've had some issues the last day, so I haven't been as coherent maybe as I need to be.
Let's save that for Beyond the Ring, because we're gonna need some current event
we
stuff.
Don't need that.
Yes, we need to save that.
So anyway, I was totally when Ryan said something about this new sex tape that Hunter Biden came out with, I went and watched it, and I'm just going off of what Ryan said. He says it was on Tucker Carlson, but I've heard it on no other news media at all.
Nope.
Please explain this to me, Ryan. How is this possible?
I don't know how it's possible. Tucker Carlson brought it to life. They're like, if you have the Fox News app, like, you can scroll forever and down towards the bottom. There was a little story. But so in 2019, during the campaign, his daddy's already been nominated as Democrat presidential nominee, all this stuff. He's in Vegas and he has a hooker. I don't know if it was in a penthouse, a hotel room, whatever. He's got a hooker. This hooker is videotaping him, I'm assuming with her cell phone. And there's drug paraphernalia, all this other, they're butt ass naked, by the way.
They were snorting cocaine off the nightstand.
Right. They're butt ass naked, doing drugs, all this stuff. 2019, during the campaign, when after he's already cleaned up his life and all this other bunch of bullshit. But anyway, next. And he goes into talking about how he's lost another laptop. Not the one that the first one that came in. This is another one. And that laptop got stolen from him because on that laptop, he has all these videos of him doing crazy sex acts with all these people. And they stole that laptop from him when he was passed out from doing drugs so they can blackmail him.
And he confesses to all of this. He's talking to this hooker about all these problems he's had. And she's intelligent enough to ask him questions to pull more out of him. Obviously, she was planning on selling this. I don't know why she waited until now to break it out.
Like him being a drug addict and him being this dumb, all of that. Okay. And no, Joe Biden, I'm not saying Joe Biden's a bad parent or anything like that.
Well, time out. Didn't he get paid millions of dollars as a high-powered consultant for many different corporations?
These are my 2 points. This man in this tape says, and I make like $1 gazillion. Because basically, and that's all he said. He didn't elaborate on it.
Gazillion. He used that word.
He said gazillion dollars because his daddy was vice president for 8 years and running for president. We all know why. And that is just the fact that anybody could be this dumb to be videoed, all this other stuff, be naked, do drugs with a hooker while your dad's running for president, all this other stuff, like the red flags that are just flying at all of that alone is too much. But the other thing, and this is the kicker for me, Hunter can be a fuck up, Hunter can be a drug addict, Hunter can be dumb and all that. Everybody's got to live their own life. Everybody's got their own demons, whatever. He's not running for public office. He's not doing any of that. That man's entitled to his private life. I get it, okay? Joe continues to say Hunter is the smartest person he has ever met, still defends him, all this other stuff. If the smartest person our president has ever met is so fucking dumb, he will be naked in a hotel room with a hooker doing drugs on video and not know it, that is a sad, sad day in American presidential history.
Ryan, you've explained it well, but that doesn't, you can't even put it into words. I strongly recommend that every listener just Google Hunter sex tape, and there's not a lot coming from the U.S. or the mainstream media. I think the one I watched was put out by some media in UK, but it's out there. And why it is not on the front of every news story, I have no idea. I challenge each one of you listeners to go and witness that, because you are not going to believe it. There is no question. It is Hunter Biden. It is his voice. It is him on the tape. There is no arguing this at all. Period.
No,
you could
there is no arguing that it's him.
None. No, the best producer in Hollywood could not have duplicated this with somebody that looks like him. Or this is him. Period.
It's his mannerisms. It's everything.
And just to listen to him give up information to a hooker,
to literally a prostitute that he may have met 3 hours ago.
Yeah,
and he's going to discuss intimate details like, oh my God, who are his handlers? Why did they let him take the prostitute away after he did his deal? Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
It is unbelievable.
Oh.
Well, Ryan, I'm glad we did the Beyond the Circus. I'm going to state that we probably ought to do more of them. We sometimes aren't able to get that done, but it was time.
Yeah, it was definitely time. I
feel a little better venting.
That we don't need, maybe something will magically happen and aliens will invade Joe Biden's body and he'll become smart and straighten out the world. And we won't have to have them anymore.
Maybe. I'd rather we didn't ever have to have another one. But
yeah, that's my point. I don't like having to have them.
No, you know, there's another one coming though.
Oh no, obviously when I get done with my summer onslaught of stock sorting, I'll have more time. Not that the fall's like that less, but it's not quite as bad as this. And then we've got an election year coming up. So a monumental election year, even though it's not a presidential election. So yeah, there's going to be more.
There's going to be plenty. Well, with that said, this is a bonus episode. All the Beyond the Circus are going to be bonus episodes. We're still going to have the Beyond the Ring that drops every Thursday night or Friday morning at midnight. And we will be recording that here shortly. So you will have that coming up. I don't think anybody's really aware that this one's dropping right now, Ryan. We better push this one on social media a little bit.
Yeah, I'll send you a graphic.
Well, I greatly appreciate your input, your insight as usual. This was enjoyable. This is easy. These are easy to do if we just find the time to do them.
Absolutely.
Until the next one, be safe.
Y'all come back now, you hear?